Support comes from Soaring Heart Natural Beds, where concern for the health and safety of sleep now extends to everything from curbside pickup and delivery to secure in-store appointments. Showrooms in Seattle, Bellevue, and now in Edmonds, or online at soaringheart.com.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. A once-in-100-years pandemic is the kind of situation that's ripe for exploitation. In a minute, KUOW reporter Liz Brazile will tell us about a Redmond man who the feds say peddled a sham vaccine to people desperate for protection. But first, let's get you caught up. The new UK coronavirus strain has been detected in Seattle. UW confirmed the diagnosis Monday from a test of a student that was done late last month. UW says the student is doing well and has finished their isolation period. The new, more contagious UK variant was first confirmed in King County a week ago. The Federal Emergency Management Agency denied the governor's request for individual assistance for people displaced by wildfires in eastern Washington. There was some hope after the Biden administration approved funds for public assistance, but in the end, FEMA said the damage just wasn't severe enough. The Spokesman Review reported the news this week. And it's been chilly enough for the city to open severe weather shelters, and we're still keeping an eye on that snow. If you're new here, let me explain how Seattle does snow. We freak out at the possibility. We talk about it for days before it might happen. And then, some might say, because we've talked about it so much, it doesn't snow. So, here's your Seattle forecast from the National Weather Service. Rain mixed with snow today. Snow moves in from the south during the day tomorrow, and there's a good chance we'll get up to an inch. Friday, maybe we get a little more snow during the day. And then Friday night, the big one, possibly another 1 to 2 inches, or, and this is me talking, we just get rain. There are now multiple effective vaccines against the coronavirus. But before the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were made available, a Seattle man named Johnny T. Stein injected several people with an untested substance that he was advertising as a vaccine. Now he's facing federal charges and possible jail time. KUOW editor and producer Liz Brazile followed Stein's story, and she's here now. Hey, Liz.
Hey, Patricia.
So Johnny Stein is a microbiologist who's now facing charges for injecting something he says is a COVID vaccine into people's arms. What the heck was he thinking?
Well, the way he tells it, Stein says that he first set out to make a COVID-19 vaccine as sort of a hobby. He saw that there were genetic sequences for the virus uploaded to a Chinese database online, and that's when he decided to kind of take this on as a passion project to see if he could do it, is the way he kind of described it to me. But then as he saw that the virus was actually having a serious toll on people and the death toll was climbing, that's when he says that he saw that he could do more with his efforts than just kind of make it a fun endeavor that he was doing in his home.
Wow. Okay, it's amazing to me that somebody would take this on and actually do this, but people did take this vaccine. Who took the vaccine?
Yeah, so Stein admitted to me that he had vaccinated his family members, including 2 sons that he has, one of which was a minor at the time that he would have injected him, and also people in his circle of friends. He described to me how he was sort of monitoring the antibodies produced by his own body after injecting himself and kind of pointing to that as evidence that this vaccine was working. But then it came to light in January, around the time he was arrested, that one of the people he had injected with this supposed vaccine last March was actually hospitalized with COVID-19 in January, leaving one to assume that the vaccine didn't actually work.
And you spoke with Stein several times on the phone in the course of your reporting.
Yeah, we had about an hour-long phone conversation, and then we texted for quite a few exchanges after the fact, just me asking him clarifying questions about things. And in speaking with me, he wouldn't disclose exactly how many people he'd injected altogether, but court documents indicate that he provided a list of 51 names to the Washington State AG's office when it ordered him to disclose those names and contact information for potential refunds.
Okay, so Stein obviously had no problem injecting this into other people. He injected it into himself and his family members. Were his intentions altruistic here? Did he really think that he was helping people?
So in talking to Stein, it became pretty clear that he has a bit of a savior complex.
I have been a microbiologist now for 34 years. And for 34 years, I've been waiting for this to happen.
And he really saw himself as something of a nonconformist maverick who was moving faster than the establishment.
Tons of people with my degree background, they're using their degrees to tell you to walk 6 feet apart and wash your hands. I'm making a goddamn vaccine.
But then, of course, others see him as more of a snake oil salesman preying on people during a very vulnerable time. And I think that's why he finds himself in the predicament that he's in now with all of these potential legal consequences headed his way.
And he's not just some guy on the street. He is an actual microbiologist who has done work in this field for a number of years.
And that's what makes all of this so interesting and complicated, is that this isn't just some person who isn't a scientist deciding to create something. This actually is someone with a professional background as a scientist, albeit he doesn't have a medical background. And so that makes all of this all the more questionable.
So was he trying to make money? Was he charging people for these vaccines?
He claims that he was not doing this for money. Rather, he was charging people hundreds of dollars because of the expenses he incurred in creating the supposed vaccine. However, federal charging documents also state that a review of his financial records uncovered that he received thousands of dollars related to creating supposed vaccines. And so I think it's an open question whether he actually did intend to make money doing this and was actually consciously scamming people, or if he's just misguided here.
Fascinating. When did the feds get involved?
So the feds say that they first became aware of him advertising these supposed COVID-19 vaccine injections back in March, and that's the time at which he began advertising them for $400 each on his Facebook page. And then there were a series of public exchanges between Stein and Friday Harbor Mayor Farhad Ghatan in April that seemed to alert the public about what he was doing, and it caused a lot of outrage, among the mayor's constituents. This happened when Stein inquired on Ghatan's Facebook page about when he should travel to Friday Harbor to vaccinate the mayor with the supposed vaccine. And then the mayor then kind of endorsed this vaccine to people who were questioning it on that post. And, it just kind of spun out from there.
Because that's where Facebook goes all the time. Are there other people who have done something like this, created something that they could call a vaccine, taken advantage of a situation like this?
The New York Times reported back in September that various scientists, including Stein, had actually been making these homemade supposed COVID-19 vaccines, and that they had been injecting them into themselves and maybe people in their immediate circles and family members. But I think what set Stein apart here and got him into trouble ultimately is the fact that he actually marketed these injections and put a price on them.
And, I wonder what this whole situation tells you about the moment that we're in, that someone like Stein was able to do something like this.
Yeah, I think this story really speaks to the level of desperation that we're all facing right now as we try to come out on the other side of this pandemic. Back when he first began advertising these injections, I think we were all, informed of a timeline that was a year to 18 months out for an actual vaccine on the market. And at that point in time, it just seemed so long to wait to get back to normal, or whatever normal might look like once the pandemic slows down, that, it's not hard to believe that people might want to put their faith into something like this if it means that they can resume some level of normalcy. And then, watching the death toll climb, I'm sure, that puts people in a different frame of mind about what they're willing to potentially try in desperate times.
Yeah, definitely a very vulnerable moment for a lot of people and ripe for this kind of situation. What kinds of charges is Stein facing?
So Stein faces misdemeanor federal charges of introducing misbranded drugs into interstate commerce, and that stems from him offering to inject, unbeknownst to him, a federal agent with the supposed vaccine, and also offering to inject their family members, and actually traveling across state lines to Idaho, where federal investigators actually seized his supposed vaccination materials. And then he also, on the state level, faces potentially having to pay tens of thousands of dollars in fines for these alleged misdeeds.
Liz, fantastic reporting here. Before I let you go, I would like to know what surprised you about this story.
In all honesty, I think what surprised me the most is how long it actually took for Stein to get arrested. Because all of this just sounded so wild, and I'm not a legal expert on what all potential laws he could have broken as he was doing all of this, but I do know that he was reprimanded multiple times within the past year. But then ultimately we know that it took until January of this year for him to actually be arrested. And according to the nearly 20-page criminal complaint against him, that substance that was confiscated by federal investigators was sent to the FDA for testing to actually see what's in it, but that hasn't yet been completed.
Yeah, it's spike protein and saline. Put that in your article, please.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing toxic about that protein. If there was, you wouldn't see all these people recovering and having normal lives.
Oh, boy. All right. KUOW editor and producer Liz Brazile, thank you so much for your reporting on this. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Patricia.
Seattle Now is produced by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Clare McGrane, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.